Hello folks, and welcome to the Techno Epoch 13 channel. Used to just be Techno Epoch, but that was a branded thing, and YouTube has a weird system with brands and things. I couldn't get like free memberships and channel memberships for people trying to gift them to me because it was a branded channel. So I had to remake the channel because you couldn't just you can like convert it back to a regular like personal account. Anyway, yes, that's who I am, and this is my channel. And at some point, I am sure that my maleficent moggy, Donna, will join us, and she will probably cause me to have to take this recording over a fourth or fifth time. Yeah, Clipchamp doesn't have a pause button. It has a stop button only. And yeah, she has hit it every single time I've tried to do a recording. I think she might be trying to tell me something. Anyway, this video is off the cuff, unscripted, and because I need to kind of speak from the heart a little bit. And I prefer to speak from the heart. So my thoughts might be a bit jumbled. But this is to kind of cover in the month since the election and also sort of before the election, some months before the election, kind of what I've been seeing from individuals who label themselves either as progressives or liberals, and how they have been generally been treating marginalized individuals within their camps. Very much focusing on identity politics or appearance politics. Honestly, those two might be combined. But anyway, so kind of a disclaimer. I am three things. I am fat, I am disabled, and I am queer. As far as disability goes, I have spinal issues, and as far as like I also have like mental stuff going on, developmental stuff. So yeah. All right. First person I want to talk about is Kyle Kalinske. And the reason I want to talk about Kyle first is because a lot of people right now are collaborating on platforming him because of his popularity and the fact that he can bring all the girls and boys and non-binary pals to to the yard with his milkshake or whatever. I didn't know where I was going with that. But unfortunately, Kyle is problematic. I don't like using that word because it's taken out of context a lot. And I've tried to raise this point with leftist progressive creators and they tell me to go fuck myself. I'll cover that in a bit as well. So Kyle has displayed ableist and fatphobic streaks in some of his content recently, or his collaborations. And the fatphobic part of it was a few months ago he was talking about like MAGA individual. I cannot remember, but the comment stuck with me. But the comment was something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, your average Republican voter is, fat, a slob, a couch potato kind of person anyway. So what do they care? Or they're not the ones who want to work or what, something like that." It was completely disparaging like fat people, honestly, and to a point, maybe kind of starting to go in on disabled folks, and that kind of pricked my ears up when I first heard him say that in one of his own pieces of content that he has on the channel. He has so much on the channel that it's a little hard for me to go through it, especially when I'm doing an off the cuff thing. Kind of been very impromptu. But I don't tell lies, generally speaking. So yeah, that got my ears up, and I was like, oh, that seems a bit weird for a progressive-ish person to be saying. Thought we were supposed to be kind of generally kind of inclusive, whereas Republicans are exclusive. But it was kind of confirmed a couple of weeks ago when he went on Vosh's show to have a talk with Vosh. Now, Vosh has his own problems. I am not going to go into them here because they are numerous and long of listing, and it would take me an entire separate video to talk about Vosh's problems. But as part of that kind of conversation, I distinctly remember him saying something along the lines of like Democrats are retarded or something along those lines. He used the R slur essentially, coming from in reference to Democrats or Republicans or MAGA or whoever you might be towards progressives for all I know. But see what I'm saying? My memory is no good. But I remember that especially because before I became disabled, I worked with disabled kids. And I have also been called that slur many times when it was acceptable to do so when I was in school back in England. So here's my point. A lot of folks are platforming Kyle now. They're having one-on-one conversations with him. They're inviting them on shows. Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report has recorded a video of him that'll be out on like January 1st if you're not a channel member or a Patreon member. Therefore, I don't know if anything objectionable was said in that video. Not yet. And honestly, maybe it's just me, but I feel like we shouldn't be targeting people based on their appearance or their disabilities. In fact, any quality they don't have control over. And we can go in depth some other time about whether being fat is a choice or not. Spoiler alert: most of the time it's not. But yeah, I have tried to bring this up with people, with leftists and progressives, saying, "Hey, you know," because they're singing his praises. And do not get me wrong, he has some really good takes most of the time. Some of them are a bit overly centrist, not to the level of the stupid shit that Cenk Uygur and Anna Asparagus are now pushing. But some of it is a little both sidesy. And I will not deny that he has good points most of the time, and the news he gives and the commentary on it is usually well founded and well researched. My issue is when we start going into insulting people based on disability or their appearance, and that's not okay. We are attacking the person at that point, and that's an ad hominem rather than attacking the argument. And the other portion of this is I honestly wonder sometimes if some of these creators are behaving in this manner because it is a way for them to kind of get additional views or, kind of get more visibility. And here she is, and don't you dare press anything, you silly cat. Anyway, so yeah, I genuinely feel like maybe folks need to kind of address some of the things Kyle has been saying that are kind of discriminatory um, before giving him a platform, essentially. And if they're not willing to, And I'm going to be honest, like I said, I've raised this, and a lot of people have just been like, see no evil, hear no evil. Literally, I've had people say, "Oh, well, I haven't seen that from him." It's like, do you not watch his videos? I even gave you a specific, like, can't give links on YouTube, but I've even given you a specific reference point, the the conversation he had with Vosh, and you're not going to go and look at it for yourself, even if it's just to see two left-leaning folks have a conversation about the state of things. People just don't. This is part of my problem with the left. When you say to them, "There's a problem with how you are treating me," based on an immutable characteristic of mine, they're just like, whatever. I didn't see it, didn't hear it. You must be lying. It's not just disability. It's not just being fat. It's not just being queer. It's also being black, Asian, other people of color, stuff like that. Okay. Second one. We're going to talk about Sam Cedar a little bit. Now, again, I'm talking about one of the big poster boys of the left right now. I'm not including the other folks on staff, not Emma, not any of the kind of other contributors. Like, yeah, I can't remember their names right now. It's not Lance from the Surfs. It's one of the other members of the leftist mafia, who are also generally pretty good. However, like I said, they starting to platform Kyle Kalinske, and it's like, bit of a problem he is. Anyway, Sam Cedar is more specifically his moderation team. I remember at the start of November, I was watching a Majority Report stream. And there was this well known individual being shitty to folks who were raising points about Gaza and the genocide. And I raised the point that it felt very much like that we were being demeaned or ignored. And this guy started rounding on me. So when I talked to a moderator about it, that moderator started publicly shaming me in front of the entire chat. I cannot remember for the life of me. I would have to remember which date, or I'd have to go and watch a Majority Report because I would recognize her name immediately. But like one of the mods said, "Oh well, this person's been here far longer than you. You don't matter. You're just a little child." And I literally mean that fucker called me a child publicly in front of everyone else. And then when I called him on that behaviour, I said, "Oh well, you're just overly emotional right now." Again, now it's not necessarily Sam Cedar himself, but if you've got a moderator on staff who, and again, I don't know if these folks are paid. Sam probably makes bank with speeches and the Majority Report and sponsors and all the rest of it. So these folks might be getting paid to kind of moderate the 3 or 4 hours a day, for all I know. And if they are getting paid, that makes them employees and they need to be held to a certain standard. For example, not insulting people who are trying to honestly engage. Again, when left leaning folks resort to insults and childish behavior, it turns me off. It's like you're not addressing the issues that are being kind of presented to you. You're resorting to childish name calling. And this one moderator, as far as I'm concerned, they might remember the interaction, and I hope they do, because if they come at me, I will tell them to go fuck themselves. But um, that moderator needs to be dealt with, as far as I'm concerned. And that is an issue for Sam to deal with, because it is his channel, and he assigns moderators, or someone with admin access to the channel assigns moderators. That's going to be a short one because there's nothing much more to say. The moderator was an asshole. Some of these people are power tripping. Honestly, these moderators. I've been moderators for channels before, and I've never been shitty to folks where I can help it, unless they've started publicly attacking me. And even then, I'm just like, okay, you're gone. Bye. The third one, and this is a lot more personal, is No Comment Chick, aka Irene. This one is a lot more personal. Now, again, it comes down to some of our moderators. There's actually quite a few issues with NCC. The first is I'm going to kind of keep on this kind of bent of moderators. Is that at least one or two of our moderators are actively fatphobic, specifically Narwhal by Nature. Yes, and I am calling them out. Narwhal by Nature is a black disabled woman and frequently insults fat people. I have got screenshots of that. And is a moderator. And frankly, being a marginalized person herself, should kind of really know not to be a shithead to other marginalized folks. I was having kind of a talk with one of the moderators about kind of vote shaming and stuff, and Irene sees this conversation and basically calls me out and says, "I'm just lazy." Literally says, "You're not doing enough in your local community to help leftist efforts." Now, one of the biggest tropes with disabled folks is that we are lazy. And I have been looking into phone banking for Kamala Harris or going to Democratic Party meetings in my city, stuff like that. I had genuinely been looking into that because I felt strongly about what was going on. Fortunately, my health started suffering because disabled and chronically ill. And yeah, I couldn't make good on that until closer to like election day, where I started actually transporting voters to the polls, especially on election day. That was my big kind of thing I did to help. But for her to be offensive and essentially say that a disabled person is just lazy is fucking ableist as hell. It's using like a freaking trope. I want to actually, again, my thoughts are disjointed, but I want to jump back to the narwhal thing a second. She is using terminology like obese and such that has been explored to be racist because it's rooted in anti-black terminology, believe it or not. There are books researching this, there are papers about this. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense to use that kind of language, and it makes no sense to insult fat people in general. And I've told her, hey, this is not okay, and she just ignores it. So my point is, Irene, at that point, I was a pretty strong follower of Irene. But the moment she openly called me lazy on her stream one night, I cancelled my sub. I left the Discord server, and it's been a while. That was months. This was like a few months ago. But I will not be called lazy when I have done plenty to try and engage in the democratic process outside of voting. Yeah, I don't. Here's my point. I don't get why these folks on the left think saying these kinds of things are okay to someone. and why they are acceptable, and why they don't take responsibility for it. And this is going to lead to kind of my overall final point here. My interactions with leftist, progressive, liberal content creators have been very negative. And it has got me to the point where I am reconsidering my allegiances, my affiliations, and such. Now, I don't want to sound like one of those I left the left types, but frankly, I don't want to be part of a big tent, as they call it, with people who think that it's okay to insult me based on my immutable characteristics. Or use ableist tropes or what have you. And none of these people, I mean, I'm trying to restrain myself from saying that people aren't good people because I try to see the best in people. However, they are all problematic, at least. In Sam Cedar's case, it's that one moderator, but not dealing with that problem is problematic. When a moderator starts openly insulting people, you may be in any business. You at that point you need to decide and say, "Hey, that's not okay. Don't do that again, otherwise you're fired." And this is coming from a former HR person. I tried to change the system from within. Nah, that's why I'm studying. That's why I'm going into human services, which is probably even worse, honestly. Um, but my thing here is that. Sorry, my cat just jumped up. My problem here is that it's led me along this path of wanting to disengage from the left, from progressivism and anything. The problem is obviously being the things I am, the right is not a valid home for me either. Because they want to literally erase me. Trump has literally said that disabled people should not be getting support, including turning off life support or removing the things they need to survive, oxygen tanks, dialysis, things like that, because it's easing their suffering. It's literally the language used, and this was in relation to one of his own family members. Not to mention the Project 2025 goons who want to put trans, queer, basically anyone who's not cis, het, and white in a camp. I guess in that way I'm politically homeless. I can't really support leftists and progressives because the Democrat Party don't give a flying fuck about like queer folks, especially trans folks for that matter. I mean, you see some of the comments some of these fucking politicians have made recently about the trans issue, and the Democratic is like, you're supposed to be better than this. At this point, the Democrats and Republicans, but that is a separate comment. That's a separate talk. I can't support the leftist causes when they have resorted to attacking marginalized folks or being disparaging about them or whatever. And I'm just at the point of I don't know what to do. The right is no good, the left is no good, the center is no good. the Greens and Libertarians are useless. So what do I do? Am I just an independent at that point? I guess as a kind of closing thing, I feel like the left needs to do better when dealing with the topic of marginalized folks and their needs and their views. And yeah, I don't know if I have any specific improvements right this moment, but I do know that it needs to change and we need to stop kind of using marginalizing language. And no, I am not trying to tone police anyone, but I am saying that the side that is supposedly inclusive of people with differences is clearly not inclusive. And they're therefore lying. Anyway. That's about it. So yeah. Do me a favor, maybe like, comment, subscribe. I would like to try and put out more content as funds come in and stuff. I'd like to upgrade some of my equipment, get a cable for my mic, and maybe a better camera, stuff like that. But yeah, I hope you all had a happy holiday. For me, it's a tough time of year, so I didn't really, but I had good people around me. And I hope, especially with everything that's gone on, that we all survive 2025 in some way and the years to come. So, peace.